Um, Fred, we're rolling over here on some camera that's over here, but just let's go ahead and introduce yourself and the title to the island here, what you do here.
Okay, my name is Fred Hay. I work for the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife Resources Division, and my title is Island Manager, but that means different things on different days.
Yeah.
And this is Katie and Morgan. These are my partners.
Hi Katie, hi Morgan. As the island manager, I'm sure there's a lot of responsibilities that you got to deal with here. When the Chattahoochee Amateur Radio Club approached the island to do a special event expedition on the island, knowing all the stuff that you do on the island, tell us a little bit what was going through your mind, okay, from an island manager point, okay, and everything that you do.
We were very excited. It's all positive. It's a lot of work. You got to come out on the ferry, get vehicles lined up, have facilities ready. But we know enough about what it is you're doing that we like it.
Excellent.
And so the trouble was definitely worth it. And I knew I wouldn't be here when you arrived.
That ain't so bad. That ain't so bad. The island itself, from a day-to-day thing on the island, what's it like a day-to-day on the island culturally?
Well, DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, out here on Sapelo, provides services that normally a city or county government would provide. So we handle solid waste, we handle fuel sales, we do retail fuel sales to the island residents. We handle transportation, the ferry system is ours. And then we do more of our normal stuff like hunting and habitat management. We plow fields, we mow, we burn, and we conduct managed hunts from September through January. So, I mean, we do a lot of things that put us in contact with the people who live on the island every day, which is great. That's different than a usual DNR office. Usual DNR office hands out licenses and answers questions about the season, but we get to interact with people a lot more.
Tell us about the island population. How many people live on the island?
Right now, during the summer, the population always grows because down at the University of Georgia, we have researchers. So we have technicians, graduate students, undergrads, researchers themselves from, we have Indiana, University of Florida, Georgia, where else are some of our folks from? Kentucky, Chattanooga, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. So we have people who come from all over the world and country. And so generally in the summer you get about 35 people down at the university. DNR, we have probably 12 residents who work for the department. We're 3 of those. And then Hog Hammock community is about 50 people or so. And in the summer that grows a little bit. Grandkids come home to visit their grandparents. And that's an honored tradition. I mean, I meet people today who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who came to the island to visit their grandparents during the summer. They lived in Brunswick or Savannah. So right now there's around 100 people on the island.
100 people. Nice. On the island itself, culturally, the wildlife that we saw the past couple of days here was pretty intriguing. We kind of understand that, you know, we're guests, you know, on their island. In relation to that wildlife, what's it like living on an island, knowing that you have to adhere to, you know, to the wildlife, that, you know, the wildlife controls you?
Well, you've seen the cow.
Yeah, the cow.
The cow. We have probably about 50 or 60 cows on the island, and they're feral. They're not wild, but they're not domesticated either. They're a lot smarter. They can disappear in the woods, and they're a little more unpredictable than a normal pasture cow. We also have alligators. Before you got here, the weeks before, the snakes were on the move. We were seeing rattlesnakes, yeah, lots of snakes, rattlesnakes, and but I haven't seen them, you know, I haven't heard anybody talking about seeing them lately. We don't have too much trouble with poisonous snakes. We have them. They're everywhere on the island, but they just don't interact. In fact, we had a moccasin like under the stoop of our front step.
Yeah. And we have cats.
And we have cats. Yeah.
Just chilling out.
Just chilling out. So
Chillaxing.
he's a candidate for relocation.
So, let's digress over here. You said you had the cat. Was it with that the cat? Was it that the brown tabby that was sunning itself on top of the roof of a truck?
They do that. That was probably.
I thought that was pretty funny when I saw that brown cat. Just sitting there all sprawled out there. That was a big cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not skinny.
In the island itself for you, when it was really found out that we were coming down here, being there's only 70, 80, 100 people on the island, the word I'm sure got around pretty quickly. What were some of the comments that you heard about that?
Well, the comments from my girls were,
Wow.
wow, and also, because they don't necessarily understand how Papa can sit there for hours and listen to the
Literally.
but then we see how much fun he has with it. Most people are really intrigued. They're really intrigued by it. Yeah, especially when you start talking about the diversity of contacts, especially international contacts. That intrigues people.
Well, as we start rolling down in some of our operations here, we're in our final hours. Some of the preliminary numbers that we've got in contacts is right around 3,000.
Yeah, that's great.
And out of the 3,000, I'm pretty confident that we've probably worked about 80 countries.
Wow.
The last contact that I'm aware of was the Canary Islands in Panama. Okay, that's a lot of countries around the world. Our lookup page for the website that we have for this expedition here is on qrz.com. The special event call sign that we had was Kilo 4 Lima, K4L. Okay, the website has gotten in the past 3 days over 4,000 hits. Okay, over 4,000 hits. Okay, that is a lot of activity off of a website. Okay, in looking at that, do you think that DNR, okay, would have some type of litmus on what can come out of this for exposure? And how do you feel about that?
We have a PR department. We have websites, and the best thing to me to do would be to link this kind of thing with our website, and to let people. I actually, I'm going to back up. I think what would be fascinating would be to look at your contacts and see if you've had any contacts that might tie to the history of the island. We've had French on the island. We've had Spanish. We have an assortment of West African countries. We have Sierra Leone, one in particular. We have Swarbrick was a Danish investor. So it'd be kind of neat, the Scottish, of course, to see if some of your contacts might have ties geographically to places where, historical figures on Sapelo and even today's people.
Well, a question for your girls before we get into the history of it. I was talking to your dad a little earlier, and I was telling him that we made a couple of contacts, and some of the contacts that we made, we stopped in kind of the rhythm of what we do, because they made a comment to us. One of the comments that one of the contacts told us is they thanked us for being on the island, and they've been trying to make a ham radio contact on this island for 15 years. Okay, what's your comment against that? What do you think the significance of that is?
That someone will want to contact someone on the island obviously shows that they're desperate.
They're desperate.
There's interest in this island.
There's interest.
In different ways than, I never would have thought that someone would have been looking for a radio like that on Sapelo. It just never occurred to me.
Okay.
It's different.
It's just more direct.
It's
Not your island, right?
It is more natural than like St. Simon's or Jekyll.
Sure.
It's different.
Yeah. So gosh, because Papa has been out here how many times with his radio? Maybe
Yeah.
3 times?
3 probably.
He throws up his antenna. I wish you could have seen it earlier today. I drove down here, and it was just like going to Papa's house. There were lines going up in the trees, and so he could have made contact with those people, but he's only been here 3 times, and he's never recorded anything.
Okay. We also made a contact, and I really have to look at the log because I don't remember what the guy's call sign was, but I do remember his comment. He said he lived in upper state Michigan, okay, and he said that he worked as an innkeeper of a lighthouse back in the 50s.
Here?
Here.
Here.
He stopped us and told us that. He was so proud that somebody was on the island. He had to say, okay, what do you think about that type
Hey, Don,
of exposure?
Sorry.
That's pretty cool.
Just about
That's
39
small.
feet.
Yeah.
You know where the old lighthouse went? You remember the steel towers is in Lake Michigan?
Uh-huh.
So I wonder if he's up there.
Yeah, maybe he's in another lighthouse doing the same thing. It's pretty somewhere else.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Any other comments, Fred, that you just culturally on the island? Your personal feelings from the heart? Or, you know?
Well, I'm glad you guys are here. I was very disappointed that my time off the island coincided with your arrival, because I think people on the island, like ham radios, are so accessible as a hobby, and this would really be such a unique niche for someone to fill as a broadcaster. We're not that remote. I still have sites. I'm sorry. Let me grab this. But so I am really glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, and I hope that maybe some of this will lead to interest in someone from the island. We have resources that could link people up with local clubs. Some of our county officials have ham training as a result of some of the
Excellent. Excellent.
security monies that have come down. Yeah, so we're just glad you're here. Hope you come back.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna